Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Early start today. I'm not used to waking up this early, but but it's worthwhile to see so many familiar faces and so many people in the room. What I'd like to do is, before we start, talk about the agenda. We're going to be working together as a group all day today, and it's going to be a fun day. And the more energy you put in, the more you're going to get out, and vice versa, because I feed off your energy. And the people around you, I guess, they're all going to be they're on the same journey over the next 10 years in property. And what we want to do is we want to create a community of like-minded individuals. You know, we're sort of the people that are the round peg in the square hole. We're not the average people out there that want to work 40 hours a week for 40 years and get a gold watch and pay off our mortgage in 30 years. We're people that wanted a little bit more out of life, and that's why we're here. So we've got something in common. We're starting up a new Facebook group. We've got the Positive Property Club, that's for the general public. But for you special guys, we're starting a new Facebook group called Black Belt Investor. And this is a group of your peers where you can ask questions, you can share your wins. And what I really want to do is create a community where we can all help each other in our property journey. Because in property, it's hard. And a lot of times in property, when you're investing, you're alone. So when I retired on property at 37, what happened was I got very lonely because I had no work to do. I was getting 180 grand a year. You're like, oh, poor George, you know, what a bad problem to have. But really what happened was, you know, I was getting up later and I didn't have a group of people to hang out with or anything else like that. And I lost a bit of purpose. And really life without purpose is really meaningless. And I thought what I wanted was a convertible Porsche, house on the beach, and more money than I could ever spend not getting out of bed. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with it, it's awesome. But without the purpose, it gets boring. And then what happened was I caught up with Tim Ferriss. Anyone heard of Tim Ferriss? Yep. So I was lucky to have dinner with Tim Ferriss in Melbourne. I was invited along to a dinner. This was before he was mega famous. So now he's so famous, I don't think I'd be invited again. Don't even know if he remembers me. But at the time, he was quite shy, and I met him at this dinner. We had a few glasses of wine, had a bit of a chat, and he wrote the 4-hour work week. And with the 4-hour work week says you only have to work 4 hours a week. And I said, Tim, I'm doing better than that. I've got the 0-hour work week. I do nothing. He goes, George, you've got it all wrong. He goes, I get up early in the morning, I work late at night because I've got a passion, I've got a purpose. And he said, look, if you're great at it, the world needs it, you get paid for it, and you love it, that's your purpose. And pretty soon I worked out, you know what I need to do? I need to find something really cool. And in the end, this is what I'm doing now. And that's why I'm doing this. So the reason I'm doing this is, 1, because I got bored. 2, because I love it, I'm passionate, and I am good at it. This is my one thing that I'm really good at is property investing and teaching people how to do it. And that's why I want to share it with you guys. So just so you know why I'm doing it. And as you go along your journey and you get more financial freedom, you'll find out that you start getting more purpose in your life. And that's very, very important. So I'm going to go through the agenda today. Today, we're going to talk about why invest. Pretty important, because the why is the most important part, really, at the end of the day. Because the why is the thing that's going to get you up early and push you through and get you where you need to be. You know, the space shuttle, it's got these 2 big booster rockets and that big thing at the bottom. And 90% of the space shuttle is just to get it out of the atmosphere. Once it goes past that, it just floats along for momentum. And a bit like property investing or anything good in life, the why is your fuel to push you and get you out there and get you out of your comfort zone. Because, you know, becoming financially free, getting out of your comfort zone, doing something different is not easy. And that's why it's good to have a group of peers to help you through this, but also you need a strong why. Why is it? Is it for a better lifestyle? Is it because you hate your boss? Is it because you don't want to get up at 6 in the morning and work all day? Do you want to have a better, better family, better travel, better house, whatever it is? It doesn't matter, but your why is important. Then we're going to talk about how much you need to live the life you want. Let's work it out. Let's work out the numbers and write it down and work out exactly what you need to live the life you want. A lot of people will be surprised, and it's a lot less than what you think, or some people a lot more than what you think. But it's important to know what it is so you know your goal, because everyone's got a different lifestyle, what they need, you know. Because with me, when I retired at 180,000, that was enough for me. Because 180,000 was the perfect amount where I didn't have to get out of bed, and I could do that. And now I've come to the stage now where no matter how hard I work, my properties make me more money than I could ever earn working 80 hours a week. And that's a really good feeling because then I can do what I want. I mean, This is not to brag, but last year I made more money in property than the top 1% of people in Australia working 80 hours a week do, working their ass off. And I made more money sitting around doing nothing. And that's because of the compounding. Because property starts off slow, and it's very frustrating. But when it starts compounding, it gets bigger and bigger. Because the more property you have, the more compounding it gets, and it just grows. It's like a snowball effect. And that's why, a lot of people, when they invest in property, they want to do things quickly, but it doesn't happen quickly. It takes time. You've got to be patient. Then we're going to talk about how much you need to retire. Then after that, we're going to be talking to one of our circle of safety, Hayley Dyson. Hayley, she's out the front, she'll be here. And she's a financial planner. We're going to be talking a little bit about superannuation, how to protect yourself and different things like that. And then I'm going to be talking about the Markoski method, part 1. I'm going to do a recap of exactly what we do, just so everyone's clear on what we do. And then we've got Xenia, a property manager. She's part of Circle Safe. We're going to be talking about how to get more out of your property, rental property, what mistakes to avoid and things like that. She's really good at what she does, and she looks after most of our properties here in South Australia. And then we're going to be talking about Markoski method part 2. Then in the afternoon, I'm going to be talking about the state of play of the property market. We've just had elections. APRA have just changed their rules. A lot's happening in the property market. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you exactly what I look at, how I invest. This is the real gold part of today. This is the part that's really exciting. I'm going to talk to you about the world as a whole, then Australia as a whole, and then the property clock in each place. Because if you understand my philosophy of investing and why I'm doing what I'm doing, this is the part that explains it all. And you can see, and you'll find out why I'm so confident in what's happening in the market. I mean, personally, I think that today, there's never been a better time to invest than today, right now, except for 20 years ago. But I haven't got a time machine, so the best time to invest is 20 years ago, always is. But now's the second best time. People at the back, can you please keep it down for a second? Thank you. Okay, and then after that, I'm going to say goodbye to everyone. How's that sound? All good? Okay, the acknowledgement. I've been this is the sort of legal disclaimer, I'm not a qualified financial planner. I can't give financial advice. What I'm doing is sharing my story. I've been very successful at property, and I've been very lucky to be that, right? So my results are not typical. Not everyone can become a millionaire overnight, and I didn't actually, because the funny thing is, whenever you get success overnight, it's usually preceded by years and years of hard work, and that's what happened with me. I worked for a long time, and then suddenly, bang, I was successful, but you've got to count the 20 years before that of learning and becoming better and doing things. So whenever you're investing, you need to seek professional advice. This is all general, it's not to your specific needs, but your coach will help you with that sort of stuff. Okay, notes. So if you listen to what I've got to say, you're going to remember 10% of this. If you write notes, you're going to remember 20 or 30, but then you can go back and remember it. But if you get involved, answer questions, put your hand up, give energy in, you're going to remember a lot more, you're going to get a lot more out of this. We are going to be taping this, and we're launching our online program, and you're all going to have access to this. So you'll be able to go back and watch me here up on stage over and over if you want to. And we're going to be adding a lot of information there. Over the next 12 months, so the people that have joined our program, what's happening is, over the next 12 months, we're filling it in, and you're just going to get new information nearly on a weekly basis. We've got a lot of amazing content that I want to share with you. We're going to be putting in a lot of stuff in there. It's going to be great. But please, take as many notes as you can. When I met Mark Boris, that was probably about a couple of months ago in Melbourne, Mark Boris said, because I was writing a lot of notes when I was there, and I met him afterwards, he said, George, I'm very impressed you're writing notes. And he was working with Kerry Packer. And that's the one reason Kerry Packer got him on board, because he was very impressed with his note-taking. So it all sort of goes down the line, because people that are successful, they take a lot of notes. People that are successful don't have the ego thinking they know everything. They want to learn things. Who's George Markoski? You already know who I am, so I'm going to flick through that slide because we haven't got time. So the positive property blueprint. How to successfully invest in positive property for less than $50 a week without losing your hard-earned cash. It's been proven time and time again. We've actually got quite a few people in this room that have actually done it as well, and you'll get to meet those people. And the 4-hour mile's been broken. We've already said hello to everyone. Basically, I really believe that the way I'm going to impact the world is by helping create property millionaires. Because if you're broke, you ain't doing any good for the world. You know what I mean? There's all these hippies out there that say, love and everything else like that. But really, we live in a capitalist society. You need financial freedom, money and time if you want to create more good in the world. If you saw that clip earlier of me in Kangaroo Island, that was a documentary on Channel 9 with Troy Gray. We actually raised $225,000 for children with special needs. Now, I wouldn't have that opportunity to do that if I was working 80 hours a week. And before I got free from property investing, I was working probably 80 hours a week running 3 businesses. I was there at 7 in the morning to 8 at night. Frustrated, I was working long hours, and I felt like I was in a rat race, just rolling over. And I had a lot of staff at the time, and I had to work just to pay all my staff. It sucked. And then this guy stole some cookware from one of my companies, this manager. And that was a turning point, because I told him where to go in front of everyone and sacked him. And then I went home and I thought, you know what? Why the hell am I doing this? And I had 10 properties that were making me money, and all the money from the properties was going into my business. And I realised that all I had to do was quit work, close my businesses, and I could just live on the beach and get 180 grand a year. So this guy that stole off me, he did me a great favour, because I could have done that 2 years earlier, but I just didn't realise. Sometimes it just takes a mindset shift to do that. And it's amazing. So we've got over 330 members. Actually, it's about 400 now, but I've got to keep updating that slide. So our goal is to create 10,000 property millionaires. I know I had 500 before, but we're growing, and I thought we're going to have a really big goal. Why muck around? Because I think 10,000 property millionaires in Australia is the goal we're going to have. And we're going to create a community of like-minded people and make the world a better place. I really think we can make the world. We live in one of the luckiest countries in the world, and when I talk to you about the stats later on, you'll be amazed. But we've got a lot of good things going for us. It's really amazing. We're helping 2 or 3 members every week invest in property. So the process has been done. It's been proven time and time again. So what is passive income to you? Let's get a bit of a handle on this. So in 10 years, properties double every 7, 10 to 12 years, right? Now, I haven't got a crystal ball. If I did, I'd be a billionaire, not a millionaire. But with property, you can't predict the short term. It's really impossible. Because if it was possible, if I could go, oh yeah, I'm going to buy that house, it's going to go up 100 grand next year. I mean, if anyone could do that, that'd be pretty amazing, wouldn't it? But you can't. And anyone saying they can, they can't. But what we can do, we can look at property, and what we know is we know that it goes up 5 to 7 to 10% every year on average, but not in a straight line, up and down. But we know that in 7 years or 10 years or 12 years, it'll be double. Everyone agree on that? No matter what. Do you know anyone that bought a property 20 years ago that's not wrapped and made a lot of money, no matter where they bought? I don't know anyone that has. I've spoken to, anyone bought a property 20 years ago? Yep, you have? Has it gone up? Yep. Oh, what did you buy it for? Yep, what's it worth now? Yep, there you go. My parents bought one 35 grand about 20 years ago. Now it's worth 550. And they weren't property investors, they just bought it. You know what I mean? So we can just beat the market a little bit. We're still going to do well. So if you buy one property for 500,000, then what's going to happen? In around 10 years, it's going to double. So that means you're going to make $500,000. Now, you could be Superman and work 100 hours a week, but you're not saving $500,000 in the next 10 years. I don't know anyone. I know people that have come to this program that, one guy is part owner of a bank. He earns $550,000 a year. And he had $2,000 savings when he joined that program. Now he's got 4 houses because we're just using all his tax dollars because he pays so much tax. But it's very hard to save money. It doesn't matter how much you make. Because people think, oh, okay, if I just made a little bit more money, I can save it. It's not going to happen because then your lifestyle grows. So buying a house is forced savings. It forces you to save. But not only that, because properties double, because properties grow, they can beat you any day of the week. You know, I've got properties that have made me 500,000 in 3 or 4 years as well. There's no way I could have saved that. And the money that properties make me now, I just can't do it. But it's great because that's what's going to happen with you. And that's the key. So if a property goes up 500,000, that means you've got 500,000 equity. Now, 5% of 500, that's 25,000 a year. So that means you'll be making 25,000 a year passive income. Does everyone follow that?
Yes.
Great. Yes?
Yes.
Great. Look, I did the mind reading course in Newcastle. Didn't work. So you're going to have to answer my questions. Okay, so that means 25,000 a year. So then if you get 2 properties, 1,050,000, 5 properties, 2.5 million, 125,000, 5 million, 250,000. So this is important to know, so you've got an idea of what a house is. Because a lot of people think, okay, if I buy a house, what does it mean to me? Because you don't know what it means to you. But now you know what it means. And that's what it's all about. So I really believe that the life you want, the marriage you want, the family you want, the holidays you want, everything you want is just one good property investment away. Like unless, you know, I didn't come from a rich family and there was no other way for me to make money except for property. And, you know, there's these things called, you know, like Bitcoin and stock market and stuff like that. But no one says safe as Bitcoin or safe as stock market. What do they say? Safe as? That's right, for a reason. Housing, 90% of the self-made millionaires in the world, the whole world, made it through property. So I'm going with those stats. I'm not going to go for some harebrained idea and try to build an app or do Bitcoin or something like that because it's not going to work. And it might work, but it's speculation. At least I know with property, it's going to work. And I'll explain to you later this afternoon why the numbers are going to work and why it's so exciting right now with property. So this is, as a black belt investor, this is going to be our creed, right? So what I want to do is, if everyone can read it out with me or repeat after me. I'm a black belt investor.
I'm a black belt investor.
I define my own destiny.
I define my own destiny.
I create my own luck.
I create my own luck.
I build my property empire.
I build my property empire.
I change the world.
I change the world.
I'm just one property away.
I'm just one property away.
Might sound a bit corny, but I think it's important to have that. I'm going to make some t-shirts. So my story, my parents were immigrants, and when I started at school, I didn't even know English. So it was a foreign language to me. And my parents struggled to make ends meet because they did it the old way. They worked hard. We never went out to dinner, not once actually. I've never been out. My parents never took me out to dinner, not once, to a restaurant, because they were into save money, pay off the mortgage, don't spend any money on anything, work hard, work overtime, work. That was the old way of doing things. It doesn't work, you know. The old way of doing things and working harder doesn't work. You've got to work smarter. Really got to work smarter. I knew from a very young age that I had to do it myself. And actually, I started my first business when I was 8 years old. So I actually had a paper run, the Messenger, and we used to roll up newspapers and then put them in people's houses. And I used to compete myself all the time. And in the end, what happened was I was so good, they gave me more areas. Then I got kids from school to help me. And I was getting paid 2 cents, so I'd give them 1 cent, I'd get 1 cent. And I was like an 8-year-old making $20 a week. In the 70s, that was good money, right? So that's what I did. And then what happened was, I was very enthusiastic and tried to beat my score each time. So I'd be on my bike. And I remember I was on my home stretch, and I threw this paper, and it hit this window, and it cracked. It was loud as anything. So I was like, oh no. So I stopped the bike. Part of me is like, get the hell out of here. Part of me is like, you might be doing this for the rest of your life. This is your business. You know, you have to knock on this door. So I was stuck, indecision, not knowing what to do. In the end, I went and knocked on the door, and it was out of my comfort zone, really out of it, because I thought I was going to get in trouble. And this giant opened the door. He was actually an old person, but it looked like a giant to me. And he was some old guy, I don't know, 50 or 60. Anyway, to me, he was old because I was like 8. And he looked at me, looked at the window, and he was angry. And then he saw the bunch of newspapers I had, and he realised. And then in the end, he said, oh, look, And I said, look, I'm sorry. And he said, it's okay, and gave me a lolly or something. Now that'd be bad, wouldn't it? But in those days, it was okay to get a lolly from a stranger. Now that'd be frowned upon, but yeah, and in the end, it worked out well. And I learnt that sometimes getting out of your comfort zone and owning your own stuff is very, very important. Fact, 92.1% of Australians are still stuck in the rat race without an investment property. So as a property investor, you're part of a very select group, and 2/3 of property investors are losing money. It's only 1/3 of them, so it's a very small, minute percentage of people make money. So we're very special. If you failed before a property, it's not your fault. You know, we didn't learn this at school. So I'm going to go through the stats. At age 65, this is according to Australian Bureau of Census, 2016. This is if you make excuses and don't change anything. Well, 15 don't make it, 74 are dependent welfare, 7 must work to survive, 3 are financially secure, and 1's wealthy. Where do you want to be? On the top. That's right. Last seminar, I had one guy said he wants to be on top of the guy on top. I didn't know what that meant. Very ambitious. Now, yes, we want to be on top. And the thing is, if we do things properly, it's not that hard. Seriously. Because if you just get one good investment property, you're going to be up there at the top. You get 2 ones, you're definitely going to be there. So it doesn't take much at all. But the thing is, oh yeah, look under your seat, guys.
George, you might want to say, find it.
Okay, whoever finds the envelope, let me know.
Yep, hold up.
Come up the front, please.
Wow, I feel good. I knew that I would not.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I feel
There you go.
good.
Really appreciate it.
You're welcome,
I
mate. Cheers. Okay, so in our group, he's one at the top. They get it all, really, you know. But I guess what I want to do is I'm hoping we're going to get you all up there, and that's part of my job. I really sincerely believe that I can do it, and I really want to do it, and we're going to do it. Whether you like it or not, you're going to go there. So why do 98% of Australians retire broke? Well, they're too busy to get started. And you guys are ahead of 98% of the people already just by being here. Because time's valuable, and you've taken a day out of your time to learn and implement and become better at your property investing, which is great, so I applaud that. Never started to invest. So many people just never started to invest. Lack of knowledge, fear of borrowing money. And you should be scared if you don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean? But if you know what you're doing and you get educated and you've got a team around you, then it shouldn't be scary at all. And lack of modern day financial education. That's the biggest challenge we've got these days. Where's pensioner poverty? Have a look at this. Look at Australia. Even though we're the lucky country, when it comes to pensioner poverty, we're one of the worst in the world. You know, Greece is ahead of us. Like, hello. So really, at the end of the day, we've got to do something for ourselves and really do something. See, our school system's broken. You know, things I never learned at school. How to do taxes, what taxes are, how to vote, how to write a resume, a cover letter, anything to do with banking, how to apply for loans for college, how to buy a car or a house. But I learnt about Pythagoras and how to add up, and negative numbers and calculus and that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? So, you know, schooling's got its place, but unfortunately it doesn't teach us the skills to live in this modern society. When they invented schools, what happened was when society went from agrarian to factories, getting the peasants to go into a factory on time was very difficult. So they invented this thing called schooling. Because before that, it was all apprenticeships. So what happened is if your uncle was a blacksmith, you became a blacksmith. Actually, my nephew's here today. So if your uncle was a property investor, you become a property investor. Is that right? So back in those days, it was all apprenticeships. And I think we're going to go back to that now. And I think apprenticeships aren't a bad idea, or mentorships, or getting a mentor. Because then what they did is they put everyone in school and they gave you, you start at a certain time, then you got your morning break, then you got your lunch break, and then you finish at 3, just like going to a factory. So they trained them all up to be robots to go in a factory. But they didn't they taught you how to work in a factory, but the problem is now it's different. We don't work in factories anymore. Well, hopefully not many of us anymore, right? So we need a different skill set, and we're not learning that at school. So if you give a fish to a man, you feed him for a day, but you teach him to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And what I want to do is teach you how to fish, not just give you a fish. Your comfort zone. The life of your dreams is just out of your comfort zone. Everything good is just out of your comfort zone. And it's uncomfortable getting out of your comfort zone. It is. But that's the point. Because most people don't get out of their comfort zone. If you're willing to get out of your comfort zone, you're going to get what they don't get. Successful people are willing to do the things unsuccessful people aren't. And it's just a mental thing. Like, for example, first time I got up and spoke in front of a group of people, I was uncomfortable. But now, with such a good-looking crew here, it's very easy. So, you probably thought I was going to say property is your biggest investment. No, it's not. You're your biggest investment. You really are. Because if you educate yourself and you become a better person, you're going to create more wealth and more prosperity in your life. I think property is the best financial investment, but the real best investment is really you. You can't get more than what you've got unless you become more than what you are. That's just a fact. And the more you become, the more you get out of life. Everything out of life. And that's what it's all about, is becoming more. Unsuccessful people think education is too expensive. Successful people know that education comes first. So if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. Ignorance is really expensive. Education is cheap. This is me of Robert Kiyosaki, presenting my book to him. Everyone heard of Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Yes. Yep. That was one of the first books that really got me motivated to get involved in property investing and things like that. And Robert Kiyosaki, I recently caught up with him in Melbourne, and he swears a lot. He drops the F-bomb every 2 seconds. And he was crazy. I mean, there was a group of like 2,000 people, and there was a lady in the front row. And if you don't interact, he'll call you out and swear at you and say, interact or get out. But unfortunately, this lady didn't understand English, so she didn't know what she was talking about. And he's like, F this, F that, interact. And she's like, I don't know. Because what do you mean you don't know? Ugh. And I was like cringing, going, please, Robert, calm down. But he hates the schooling. He hates schools. And I get it, because he didn't go to school. But he's sort of right in a way, but I don't hate schools. I mean, I think there's a place for him. But he says, look, you really got to get it financially educated if you want to get ahead. And he's really smart. He's licensed this stuff out now. So there's a Robert Kiyosaki property investing here in Australia at the moment. But it's got nothing to do with Robert. He's just hired out his name and just a bunch of people that have paid him to sell property, which is crazy. But this is the cash flow quadrant, and this is really, really important. So, okay, so let me explain how this works. E. Right? So this is employee. So when you're an employee, no work, no pay. Everyone understand that? And look, everyone probably has to start there. We all have to start there. Who's an employee in this room? Okay, great. So what it says, what Robert Kiyosaki says, you start off here, E. Then after that, what happens is a lot of people move to S, which is self-employed. Who's self-employed here? Right? Sometimes being self-employed is worse than being employed. They don't know about it, right? Because then, you're the boss. You work longer hours, but it's fun and it's one of those things. And then you move from self-employed to owning a business where you've got systems and people work for you and you don't have to be there. Anyone own a business where you don't have to be there at work? Probably not, because you probably don't need property investing. And then from there you move to investor. So it's a progression. Why do I want to get to investor? Because investor is where you get paid whether you get up or not. It doesn't matter. It's a good place to be. Because every other quadrant here, you're working at the end of the day. I mean, employee, you've got to work. You don't have to stress as much, except if you hate your boss. Self-employed, you've got to work really long hours. B, you're going to stress out about all your staff and all your bills. Investor, you don't have to worry as much. And so what I'm trying to do is help you go from E straight to I. You don't have to go through all the different steps. I did, because I did it the old way. But really, I didn't realise that I should have just gone from E straight to I. But see, the investors, a small group of them, they own 90% of the wealth. Which is amazing, because they've got money working for them. And that's what a property is, really. When you get a property, if you do it right, what happens is you've got the tenant working for you, you've got the tax department chipping in, and you've got the property growing for you. So you've got 3 sort of income streams doing it for you. That's why you can't do it on your own. And that's why, like, if you had 10 properties, you couldn't work hard enough to beat them. They're going to beat you all the time. So, anyone play Monopoly as a kid? I used to love it. I remember when I first saw Monopoly, I just totally loved it. And my parents didn't have a lot of money, so I made my own Monopoly set. And I just drew these things out and got some bits of wood and stuff like that, and it was terrible because I had no idea. But I played it anyway, and I just kept playing it. But yeah, I wish my parents bought me a Monopoly set. But now I play Monopoly in real life, which is a lot more fun. I don't have any hotels because that's not a good investment. It's commercial. I just stick to residential. But yeah, so it's fun playing Monopoly in real life. And you remember in Monopoly when you get those little cards from your title deed? So once you pay your house off, you get those as well. And I've got a few of those in my safe at home. And it's like, wow, it's just like Monopoly, but just a little bit bigger and real. Funny enough, because they're different states, they're different colours. Because the one in Perth's orange and the one in Adelaide's green. Yeah. So, how do the rich really get rich? I've got to keep my eye on the time. We've got plenty of time. Awesome. My wife here, she's going to tell me off if I go over time. So, okay. So this is what the poor do. They get an income, right? And then with the income, they spend on a car, house mortgage, assets. What assets? They probably don't have assets, but they spend their money on rent, transport, food, holidays, football tickets, brand new TV, 6-pack of beer, clothes, jewellery. And look, there's nothing wrong with that. What did the rich spend their money on? Well, one, they've got assets, investment properties, shares, business, education. Their liabilities, a home. If you notice how the home's a liability, anyone notice that? So strictly, it's not a liability, but I'll explain. The house you live in, your owner-occupier, right, is not strictly an investment because it doesn't earn you an income. It costs you money. That's the fact of it. So, yes, it will go up in value, so it's an asset that way, but it costs you money. So I really think if you're starting out, you're better off renting, especially if you're paying tax, and you're better off renting and then actually buying investment property. I don't know if you looked at Channel 9 thing, I was explaining how it works. But rent vesting is the way to go. So when I retired, I rented. I'll tell you why. So what happened was I wanted to live on the beach. I had 10 properties. They were making me $180,000 a year. Right? I might write this down so you can just see the numbers so it's clear for everyone. I pulled out $350,000 out of an offset account, put it out of a property equity, put it in an offset account. That way, money in an offset account, as far as I'm concerned, is the best thing you can do. And I want you to have a minimum of $10,000 in your offset account, because that way you're just covered no matter what. That's one of your goals. If it's not yet, have a minimum of $10,000 in your offset account. You can't have it straight away, but that's what you want to build up to, because then no matter what happens, you're covered. And I thought I was going to retire for the rest of my life, so I thought 350 in my offset account's fine. Then I used it to buy a convertible Porsche and a few other things. I parked it out the front. I was telling Christina, you just got to manifest stuff. So what happened was I go, look, we're just going to park out the front.
You told me to manifest, I told you to manifest.
So I thought we'd park out the front, and we're doing a workshop here. I'm sure they're going to let me park there. I walk in, and the guy there actually came to my Bucks party, so it was like perfect. I go, here's my key, thanks mate. Came in handy. It's always good when you have a positive expectation. Now, what I want to do is I want to live on the beach. Now, if you get a $2 million house on the beach, it's going to cost you $150,000. So how much would I have left over? 30 grand. Not a millionaire lifestyle, is it? No. Pretty shit. So what did I do? I ended up renting on the beach. So I rented a house on the beach for $50,000. So then what happened was I had $130,000 left over without getting out of bed. $130,000 is good. So my landlord was subsidising my rent because I was putting in $1,000 a week. He was putting in another $1,700 a week for me to live there. Crazy, hey? Because a beachfront property is not an investment property. The return is crap. We want to get about 4.5 to 5.5% return. On the beach, you're going to get 1.5. It's not what we want to go for. You don't want to go blue chip. See, Melbourne and Sydney at the moment are going down. What's really going down in Melbourne and Sydney is the blue chip stuff. The expensive stuff's going down. And that's what happens when there's a downturn. The mid-range stuff hasn't been affected at all. So an investment property, it's important to find out what price range you're in. A lot of things are an investment. That person that bought that house I was renting, that was not an investment because he was losing money. But he wasn't a professional investor, he was a doctor. So your house you live in is not an asset. Am I saying don't buy a house to live in? No, do it. But you need to have enough investment properties to cover it. So for example, I recently bought a house on the beach, but now I need to buy more investment properties to cover it because I need 7 properties just to pay for that. So if your investment properties are paying for your house, go for it, buy it, because then it doesn't cost you anything. And then the other investment properties are cream. Does everyone follow what I'm saying? You've got to balance out the income to your expenses. And you've got to live the life that you can afford at the time. So if you're starting out, much better to rent when you want to rent and invest in a property and grow your property portfolio. Because when you're renting, your landlord has to worry about all that stuff. You're investing, you're getting your tax dollars back, I'm going to explain that later, and you're getting more benefit out of it. So, the poor and the middle class. There's a long list. They believe life happens to them, they're victimised. They play the money game not to lose. They want to be rich. They think small. They focus on obstacles. They resent the rich and successful people. They associate with negative people. They think negatively about selling and promoting. They're smaller than their problems. They're poor receivers. They choose to get paid on time. They focus on their working income, instant gratification. They think they already know it. But the rich, they play the money game to win. They don't have a big ego. They're willing to learn from their mistakes. Because one thing for sure, if you want to get good at something, you're going to make mistakes. I made so many property mistakes in my life. I really have. Because you can't get good at something without making the mistakes or learning from someone that's already done it. See, that's the good thing. You get the shortcut. You get to learn from my mistakes. I got to learn from mine, and it cost me a lot of money, but it was worth it. But, you know, when you make a mistake, it's a learning experience. It's not a mistake. That's what it's all about.